Moved to Crookham near Aldershot on 7th of June. Had easy time here. On Friday the 15th of June, we were paid £1 in French money, 200 francs. Any surplus English money was changed to French at the same time. While we were here, jet-propelled planes were continually passing over. One single engine, the other with 2 engines. They made a ripping or tearing noise as they passed by at very great speed. Terrific climbing power, apparently. June 25th. Moved to Gosport. Spent one night by roadside. Doodlebug passed over very low and going very fast. Yellow flame from rear. Engine stops and plane dives to ground. June 29th. Set off at 1800 hours. Past hundreds of boats, destroyers, hospital ships, etc. Past 3 forts built like lighthouses to guard channel. June 30th. Woke up to find ourselves off French coast. Even more ships here than on the other side. The Rodney, various cruisers, destroyers, motor torpedo boats, LCTs, LSTs, merchant vessels. 1000 hours. Landed in 1 foot of water. Houses on the front battered to rubble. Roads chock full of vehicles. Moved inland to assembly point and joined remainder of company. Then moved to unit location about 6 miles from Caen. We arrived at 1500 hours and immediately dug in trench. 4 foot deep, about 6 foot long and wide. Like railway compartment with beds on either side, beams over top, and tarpaulin covered by soil. Thus safe from anything except a direct hit. Should be safe from Jerry machine gunning. Still living on compo rations. Not too bad. Plenty of sweets, chocolate, biscuits, stew, etc. July 3rd. Poured all day long until evening, when it turned out quite nice. July 4th. Battleship firing guns into battle area, probably the Rodney. Started to rain again. All villages out of bounds except on duty. We are not allowed to go into shops to buy anything, nor to barter with the local inhabitants. 1500 hours, very heavy barrage to east of us. July 5th. Spoke to young French boy. He seemed to understand me. Heavy raid by bombers on German positions at about 10:30 hours. Saw one of our tanks with flails on it. The French boy told me that they had to have coupons for bread, but that milk and butter might be obtained from a farmer. Saw a great number of burnt-out Shermans being brought in. They would go to help-yourself dumps for salvage. July 6th. Went to cinema show here in the morning. Hi diddle diddle. Quite amusing. Proper cinema, but splattered with holes, etc. Passed through La Deliverande. Quite a busy little town. Terrific congregation of traffic. 1450 hours went for Bath. Had bathe instead at the river at Revier. In the altogether. Very refreshing. Roads, again, full of traffic. The trouble is that the whole army is crammed into a depth of 10 miles, like a compressed spring. Very soon, we hope, spring will expand, and we will be able to move round more freely. Big naval gun shelling Caen, right over our heads. Hell of a noise. Must be a battleship of some sort. Lasted until 9:30 p.m, at 2-minute intervals. 9:30 p.m. The most dreadful yet wonderful sight I've ever seen. Lancasters started coming in right over us. Slowly, majestically they sailed over, not very high. Then the German ack-ack started coming up. Showers of petals floated down. Heavy thuds on the ground. The air was thick with them. High above you could see a fighter cover supporting them. 20, 40, 100, 200. Still they came inexorably onto their target, which must have been Caen. One apparently hit. Came gliding down slowly under perfect control. Circled close by and made an apparently good forced landing on an airstrip nearby. Then came a last one, on its own. and for 2 minutes it looked as though the raid was over. But no, that was merely the first wave. Soon more and more appeared as far as the eye could see. Clouds of smoke were drifting away from what was left of Caen, and still heavy thuds of the ack fire which seemed very ineffective. I only saw 2 hit go down in flames. There must have been hundreds over. I should estimate it at 400, 500 of them. The raid lasted an hour. Just imagine what 1,000 could do in 20 minutes. I must hear the news tomorrow. 11 p.m. Terrific artillery barrage started up. Big push on without a doubt. Let's hope they are through by morning. Artillery barrage supported by shell from battleships lasted all night. July 8th, 7 a.m. Flights of twin-engine bombers flying pretty high and in tight formation over Caen. They all dropped bombs together with a terrific roar. Ack from enemy still going. Artillery barrage still going strong. It was announced on the wireless today that 450 bombers dropped 2,300 tons of bombs on Caen last night, and that an attack was launched in this sector at dawn this morning. Redug our shelter this morning, made it deeper, and the top stronger. July 9th. Very little to report. July 10th. Very little to report. July 11th. Very little to report. Very little work for me to do, and I am getting horribly bored. Mail seems to be taking the devil of a long time to get through. Our chaps have been out on recovery to the outskirts of Caen. Apparently Caen has been reduced to one vast mass of rubble. They've seen some pretty grisly sights in the Bren carriers and tanks which they've recovered. Very little gunfire during the day. Some sappers have been blowing mines up in the neighbourhood. At night, Jerry comes over, the only time he dare. And our ack opens up at him. Nothing dropped near here, except an unexploded ack shell. Sappers defused an unexploded bomb 100 yards away safely. July the 14th, 14:30 hours. Jerry plane over. Everything opened up at it, and finally they hit it. It raced blazing across the sky, and finally, well away from here, it nosedived. 1700 hours. Jerry plane over again. About 6 of them. Ack fire very fierce, but didn't see any brought down. Heard cannon fire from our fighters up there too. July 17th. There doesn't seem to be very much to write about. Life goes on much as usual. The weather is cold, overcast and dry. The tanks have ground the soil in the fields to a fine powder, and as vehicles and tanks pass they raise a terrific dust cloud which penetrates everything. I wish it would rain, then perhaps the dust would settle a little. Our fighters are up all day, and Jerry is over quite a bit at night. Obviously a big push is coming off. All the recovery teams have been stationed along the roads to keep them clear for the next 4 days. Something big is obviously on. July 17th. 2000 hours. I am guard commander tonight. As dusk falls, Jerry comes over, but not here. It's very interesting to see what we throw up at him. Tracers, flares, all sorts of weird-looking stuff. By midnight all is quiet, save for the rumble of the guns round Caen. There is piles of traffic on the road moving up. Searchlights flash up from the coast and elsewhere, obviously signalling. Flares shoot up. July 18th, 05:30 hours. As it begins to get light, the drone of heavy bombers is heard, and soon you can see them, piles of them, flying at about 5,000 to 7,000 feet, not in formation. They are not bombing the same objective, though. This time they are away to the left, pasting the other side of the river. The Pathfinder drops a number of fairy lights in a cluster, just like a chain of red and yellow lights. Then the others paste the marked places. The heavy thuds can be easily heard. Jerry put up only feeble attack this time, but our artillery starts giving Jerry all it's got. Jerry hits our plane. There is a flame in the sky, and a black ribbon of smoke shows it going down, and a black mushroom of smoke shows where he hits. It is too far away to see if anyone got out by parachute. They keep on coming until about 06:30 hours. There must have been the same number as the last time. I see one mosquito, obviously seeing what the damage is. How the people of London or Liverpool would like to see this. Vengeance is mine. A terrible retribution. The raid is over by 06:30, but the guns are putting up a terrific show. I'm shaving at 7, when a drone indicates more bombers. This time they are very high in formation, twin-engine jobs. They look grand as the rising sun shines on them. 100 are in and out in 15 minutes in packs of 18. I see one hit and go down in flames. They pass on their way back, still in formation. They are still coming at 0800 hours. They are hard to see now, up in the blue vault, save when the sun catches them. Then they look like a flash of silvery birds. Another one is hit and goes down. At 0820, I get into the dugout for a short kip. As I drop off to sleep, I hear more and more of them coming over. At 1100 hours, as I write this, the guns are still throwing up a terrific barrage. Jerry must be tough if he can take this lot. Now I suppose the troops are attacking over the River Orne. 19th of the 7th, 44. Well, the big push seems to have gone well. We've broken through to the southeast of Caen, and the picture is a little confused at the moment. Piles of remains floating round. Jerry, just south of Caen, looks like being encircled if he isn't careful. 21st of the 7th, 44. Torrential rain fell, and the dust quickly turned into mud. Thick and sticky. Vehicles were skating all over the place. Some of the dugouts were flooded. Some caved in, but apart from a muddy floor, ours was okay. The air is a great deal cleaner as a result of it. 22nd of the 7th, 44. The high spot today was a doodlebug coming in from the coast making straight for Caen and the Germans. It was going at a hell of a speed and kept going. We laughed like hell to think that Jerry was getting his own back. There was some argument as to where it came from. Some say it was ours, others that it is from Cherbourg, a captured German one. I think it's a Jerry one, with a faulty control which is circled round in the channel. 27th of the 7th, 44. 1915. Hell of an explosion from the airfield, and a hell of a cloud of smoke. Something went wrong somewhere. The smoke put out the sun for a few minutes. 7th of the 8th, 44. The best day we've had yet for sun. The Americans still going very well. No mail for 3 days. Security, they say. Maybe another landing coming off. Had a bathe in the sea on Thursday last. Very warm. Too many stones. Been playing cricket all night. Quite enjoyed it. Rumours of a move coming shortly. It is said that we are leaving Recovery Company. At 10:30 p.m, our bombers started coming over. Soon the air was full of them. You couldn't see them, but you could feel the thud of the bombs as they fell, and see the flash of the explosion, even though they must have been dropped about 20 miles off. This went on for about an hour. 8th of the 8th, 44. What we heard last night was the beginning of an offensive, south of Caen, against Jerry's. 1,000 bombers apparently took part. By the 1 o'clock news today we have advanced 4 miles. As I write this, fortresses are passing over in formation of 12, back to England from a bombing mission. About 80 passed over here so far. 10th of the 8th, 44. A fortress crashed a few miles away today. We saw 6 men bail out, and the plane, out of control, was all over the place. It would nosedive and pull out at the last minute. Finally, after pulling out, it slid backwards, turned over and crashed. Don't know if there was anyone still inside. 11th of the 8th, 44. Another plane crashed today, Saw 5 parachutists from it. 12th of the 8th, 44. I went bathing in the sea, like Blackpool on a bank holiday. 13th of the 8th, 44. Nearly 1,000 planes passed over in formation at dinner time. Going bathing again today. 14th of the 8th, 44. Another bathe and hundreds more planes. 15th of the 8th, 44. Ditto. 16th of the 8th, 44. Left La Deliverance for a new location. Soon came to what was left of a small village. Just a mass of rubble. On to Caen. The first part we saw was absolutely wrecked. I doubt if anyone lived through it. Coventry a mere flea bite. But the other part of the town was practically untouched. We came out via Bretteville to a spot near Villers-Bocage, another week from bomb and shell. We finally finished up in a lovely meadow on a hillside. No more dust. Bags of flies and wasps, though, probably because of dead cattle and horses lying about. Very hot here. The chaps have been in some deserted farmhouses for cider. I had more than enough last night. Huge barrels of it in cellars. Trees full of apples all over the place. Not ripe yet, though. I don't think we'll be here long, though. Lovely and quiet. No guns. No ack-ack at night. I'm sleeping in the lorry. 26th of the 8th, 44. Moved again. Another orchard near Thury-Harcourt. The flies and wasps are a great pest here. They swarm round all day. I spend a deal of time swatting them. I'm pretty successful too. The peace and quiet continues, but I miss the bathing. Still, the war is moving very rapidly. Some troop carriers have just gone over. Goodness knows where they were going. 1400 hours. Another move to beyond Falaise. Falaise is a mass of rubble. As bad, if not worse than Caen. The damage seems to be more widespread, if anything. Many buildings look as though they might fall any time. Hundreds of army transport planes have been flying over low, in formation of 9, heading in the Paris direction. It's been going on to and fro all day. Perhaps they've been taking food to Paris. 27th of the 8th, 44. Been through Falaise 4 times today. If ever there was a bottleneck, this is it. Held up for 45 minutes. There is hardly a whole building in the place. A great number of walls look very insecure. A good blast of wind would bring them down. Pioneers working, throwing the rubble back off the streets. Very pitiful to see civilians sitting in the pile of rubble which used to be their home, no doubt wondering what they're going to do. 1400 hours. Went on a recce with the captain. Left the war behind. Went down little country lanes where there are no signs of war, save for an occasional wrecked German car. Bags of apples, cider and otherwise, on the trees. We had a few. Little farmhouses looking very peaceful, with roses and dahlias growing in profusion. The locals all salute, and shake hands if they get half a chance. I gave one old chap some cigarettes. He told me they couldn't get any. Gave another chap a lift. The locals in many cases were moving home. Really very strange to find it so peaceful, as this was the famous Falaise pocket. The main roads are in grand shape, save for the occasional shell holes. We were speeding along at 60 for long spells. Bridges across the Orne were all blown up. Moved today through the Falaise-Argenton pocket, Death Valley, to a new location. As we came into the valley, there was a horrible stench. Dead horses and soldiers lay all over the place. Jerry's. German prisoners were burying them. Apparently the Germans carry wooden crosses for all her soldiers, ready for burial if necessary. They hadn't had time here. There were wrecked vehicles all over the place. We took 3 which were in reasonable condition for use by ourselves. We also took about 6 German wireless sets. I don't know yet if we can make them work. After we left this area, the signs of war grew less. The long, straight roads were still in good condition. The towns and villages were untouched. I was in utility and led the convoy without a hitch to the river crossing. We arrived at Le Norbord at 8:30 the following morning, after sleeping for the night at the side of the road. There was a colossal roadblock at Le Norbord, in which we were stuck for 2.5 hours. The damn fools, Canadians, Americans and RAF chiefly, will double back. I drove the Hillman on from there to our present location. 3rd of the 9th, 44. Crossed the Seine at Saint-Pierre-de-Vaudreuil. One bridge intact, Jerry in a hurry. Past Louviers, intact before the river. Stayed a night nearby. 4th of the 9th, 44. Moved on to a place between Écouis and Lyon-la-Forêt. Here again, no signs of damage. Must be a bit off the beaten track, even for our troops. After stopping, a number of children came up. They wanted chocolate, soap, sweets, even cigarettes. I had a long chat with them. Most of them were evacuees from Rouen. One had her father a prisoner of war in Germany. They told me that Jerry left here 4 days ago. There are still German snipers in the woods about. I gave them chocolate, cigarettes. After tea we went out in the jeep. Went to a farm for eggs. They had given all their eggs away, but if we go back on Wednesday there will be some. They didn't want money. Soap, boot polish, chocolate, cigarettes. We went to Écouis. There, at 3 small farms, we got 12 eggs in exchange for about 5 cigarettes apiece. I became quite fluent. We also went to Lyon-la-Forêt, a lovely road through the woods, and got some tomatoes, lettuce and 2 peaches. My French is better than I thought. Still, I must brush it up. September the 6th. Left here for Brio, a much poorer district. Still, I soon had the French going on a young girl, who got onions and tomatoes. Went to the village and bought eggs for money this time, 5 francs per egg. September the 8th. Moved off a new location. After about 3 hours on the road, came to Amiens, en Somme. Stopped outside and got into conversation with a French woman. She told a great tale of woe, but apparently she had been a collaborateuse, for her hair chopped off. We gave a middle-aged pair a lift. They were from Guernsey. They had a youngster of 10 months with them. The man and woman had both been POW in Germany. The woman had escaped, and there was a price on her head. I had a long chat with them. We passed through Doullens, very badly battered, bomb damage, I think. Probably one of the Jerry's escape routes. There must have been 100 craters, all in one very small area of about 400 yards square. Passed on through Aubigny, and stopped for an hour in a field. I at once got into a conversation with a young lad, who showed me a small British military cemetery of the last war. There was one grave of a chap killed in February 1940. 2 small girls who came up did not understand my French, and I was upset, until I learned that they were Polish refugees. We are in the territory of last war now, quite near Arras and Vimy. Just when we had unpacked, I learned that we were off again, this time probably into Belgium. Pity. Still, they understand French there. The chap we helped back on the road to Belgium gave me an American newspaper, number 7 since its liberation. September 9th. We crossed the frontier into Belgium at about 1 a.m. Saturday 9th of September 1944. A crowd of locals waving the Belgian flag told us this. At 7 a.m. I was first up and was stretching my legs when an old chap walked up. He insisted we go to his house for coffee. This 5 of us did. His house was spotless. A tiled floor fit to eat off in the kitchen. There they gave us coffee, piles of tomatoes, green gages and apples. When we were able at last to leave, we went back. By 08:30 hours, all the locals had arrived. We must have been the first English they'd seen. They were delighted. Crowds of children came round with apples, plums, etc., and pushed them into our hands. They didn't ask for anything in exchange, but if we had any biscuits, chocolate or cigarettes, they were delighted to have them. They swarmed all over the vehicles, into the cabs, the backs. They wanted souvenirs too. Apparently Jerry fled last Sunday, and we were the first troops to stop there. A number of them spoke French, but the normal language was Flemish. I talked French with one chap, who bought bread, about 6 pounds of plums, without asking in return, for which I gave him some soap and cigarettes. He gave me his photo and address, and asked me to write, and if I am near, he will expect me to call. Of course, I returned the compliment. At lunchtime, several ladies brought dinner out to us. After lunch, we moved again, and from then on it was a triumphal procession, and at each place crowds of people lined the streets waving, shouting, trying to shake hands and throwing fruit into the truck. When we finally arrived here, the villagers flocked round again. They don't speak French very much, though. It's only occasionally you find anyone who does. They want cigarettes, biscuits, but we are running short. They bring tomatoes, etc. to give us. We have too much fruit. As I write now, there is a crowd around the cookhouse. The girls here are very pretty. Very little makeup, but very pleasant, open faces. They smile as though they really are pleased to meet us. The shops in the towns are full of fruit, etc. I haven't had a chance of visiting one yet, but I must get an afternoon off to buy something. The main roads are very fine, but the streets in the towns are very narrow and cobbled. The countryside roads are also narrow and cobbled. There is plenty of beer and wine to be bought here. We are going to change our money into Belgian. They have dances often here. If I'm here long enough, I will go.